Yep, I think we're ready. It's 1 o'clock. Guys, hi, I'm Danny Frank. I'm the team leader here at the Keller Williams and Lakeway, and Bia Furlow's on here as well, the co-team leader with me. And we have Gina Ront of the Gina Ront team here today talking about listings to last. And what an opportunity to hear from the master of listings. Gina has an hour of stuff packed for you guys, and I'm just really excited about the opportunity to hear what's going on with the Arant team and everything is happening. So, Gene, take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So this is a interaction. So I will be asking some questions occasionally, and I would love some participation. I guess the first question is why? What do you guys think? Why is listings to last important? Why are listings? Why is it leads, listings, and leverage in the MREA book? Camera.
I need to do that. Well, listings help sustain your business.
Right.
So
Why does it help sustain your business? What does a listing give you?
Buyers, interested people in the market.
Right. Thanks, Bo. Yeah, you get more buyers and you get more sellers. Right? MREA book says if you take a listing, properly market it, you should get another listing, at least another listing, and at least another buyer. Right? Every one listing gets two additional sales, and I've definitely seen that is the truth. Obviously, we're going to be talking today's market. We're going to be talking about normal market, right? Today's an extreme sellers market. So if you have a listing, you are, it's like gold. Absolutely. And so the psychology a little bit behind, I've got some notes down here, behind versus buyers. And so my next question is, why do realtors end up being buyer heavy versus seller heavy? Who can answer that?
Because we contact our sphere, and typically when you work by like referral or in your sphere, you just tend to pick up buyers.
Right. And that's why Gary Keller likes Brian Buffini. If anybody who here can raise your hand and tell me that they know who Brian Buffini is.
I'm in coaching, or was in coaching with Buffini.
Yeah. So Brian Buffini, his famous line is by referral only, right? That was his main thing. And so if you're by referral only, then you're only working your Met database. And if you're only working your Met database, which is awesome, you absolutely have to. I mean, Gary believes in that, 100% believes in that. But the problem is that most of the people that raise their hand in Met database is buyers, right? Who do you see on Facebook? Who do you see on Instagram? I'm buying a new house. I'm looking for a new house. Who do you know that's looking for a house, right? Very rarely do you see a seller on Instagram or on Facebook going, I'm selling my house. And the reason why is because there's different scenarios, right? People are excited, they're buying a house, so they just got pre-qualified, whatever it might be. A seller, it's all kinds of reasons. It's good and bad, right? It's they got a job raise. And so maybe they haven't told anybody in their current work. Maybe they haven't told their neighbors. How many clients do you have that actually, said, don't put up a sign yet? I haven't told my neighbors yet, right? They've already picked their realtor. They already have a place to go, whatever. And so they might be moving up. They might be moving down. They may have lost their job. They may be going to jail. They may be getting divorced. They may be sick. They may be going to move closer to grandkids, right? And so, all those things are not necessarily reasons that you're going to post and raise your hand that, hey, I want to sell my house. And so therefore, finding sellers is a lot different than finding buyers, right? And my favorite script for you guys that do open houses to help to find sellers, when somebody walks in, you just say, my experience has been that if you're coming into an open house, there's only two reasons you're here. Either you're a buyer looking for a home or a seller who's thinking about selling their home. Which one are you? Right? So again, everything we talk about on our team is we really lean towards being seller focused. seller focused. Because if we know if we get the listings, we have as many buyers. I have so many buyers right now. I mean, pages and pages, of people that we could help if we have the inventory, which you might the same. And so that's why you end up being buyer heavy, because it's more natural. It's easy. You end up just naturally flowing towards buyers in that sense, and you fill your pipeline. Teaching a class, darling. My wife just walked in. And so therefore, you end up working with buyers and not sellers. And statistically, in the book, Gary talks about that you can work 3 times as many sellers as you can buyers, right? And Gary's popping in to say hi. Everybody say hi to Gary. And so therefore you can leverage your time, right? It's leads, listings, and leverage. So it's not just about leverage people, but leveraging your own personal time. So you guys can do 3 times more business by working with sellers than you can with buyers.
Hey, Gene, the other day we were on a panel and you said something that just keyed me into saying what you just talked about. Was you were asked last week, how many hours a week do you typically work? And that goes to that what you just said. You said no more than 40. So how many units are you going to do this year?
We've closed 230 and we have 37 pending. And that's with 3 buyers agents and 2 listing agents. So we're at 128 million closed. And because we focus on sellers, that's our number one, right? You guys, that if you, and let me throw this out there to you too, just in today's market. In today's market, every single one of us on this call are the same. I'm no better than you are if I have a seller, right? You put a sign in the yard, it's priced reasonably, it's in decent condition, it's going to sell. So therefore we're all the same. And so that's not always going to be the case. So right now, real estate is not your normal real estate. So we will talk about your skill set and how you can get better in what you do, because it's going to be important when the market does shift, because you will see a different skill set that'll have to show up in order to be able to win with sellers. So I'm not checking the chat. So if there is a chat, if somebody can watch that and let me know if there's any questions. Let's see. So we're going to talk about the 5 P's of listing houses. And so number 1 is professional, being a professional. The definition of professional is engaged in a specific activity as one's main paid occupation rather than as a pastime. So if anybody that's on this call that is doing this part-time, it's going to be very difficult for you to be a top agent or an amazing listing agent, especially if you're doing it part-time. This is a full-time job. I got a call, or in my coaching call this week, we're looking at adding some team members and coming up with questions. And so my favorite question to ask somebody who joins our team, who really wants to get in and get going, is, are you prepared to work half days? And what does that mean? Are you prepared to work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? That's what it's going to take when you get into real estate for the first 6 months. You are going to have to work your booty off. This is not a show up and I just need to find a seller or buyer business. You will be part of the 70% that's gone, every 2 years, right? Our turnover rate in our industry. So you have to be a professional. And in the shift book, page 50, and they talk about this in bold too. You have the 6 core competencies, and I'm just going to read them to you real quick, and then we'll hit them. Number 1, lead gen, capture and convert to appointment, right? What are you doing in lead gen? This is not a lead gen class, but that's number 1. What are you doing every day to go find sellers? How many conversations you have, what's your skill set, et cetera, et cetera. Number 2, present to buyers or sellers and get agreements. Show buyers and market. Can everybody hear those beeps? Can anybody turn those
I
off?
don't know what it's coming from. I don't have a clue.
You should be able to turn it off on yours. There's a little 3 dots and options. It's when people are coming in.
Yeah, just tell me what to do.
So it's little 3 dots under all the participants and play sound when someone joins or leaves. You can uncheck that. You see what I'm talking about? So right under, if you open the participants,
Yep.
and you see all the names, and then you have 3 little dots at the bottom of it. And the fourth option down, play sound when someone joins or leaves. Here, I'll turn mine off. I think it's individual though. Let me turn that off. See if that works.
I got the participants. I don't see the 3 dots. Sorry.
At the very bottom right corner. But I turned mine off. Let's see if that works.
See if that works. Cool. All right. I'm easily distracted. And so lead gen, present to sellers, show, market sellers, write, negotiate contracts, coordinate, the closing, and then practice and role play, right? That's it. That's your job. That's what it takes to be.
Gene, can you let them know, like, do you still practice scripts after all these years?
I role play this morning. We role play this morning with Mondays. We have a stand up with the team. Tuesdays, listing agents. Wednesdays, we practice the promise. If you guys are familiar with that, what that looks like. We're starting getting into some for sale by owners on Wednesdays also. And that's 8:30 to 9 with with all agents and our 2 inside salespeople. Thursdays we work buyer specific scripts. Today we're working on for sale by owner scripts for buyers, for sellers. What our buyer agents and how they can help set appointments for our listing agents.
Perfect. So just for everybody to know, everybody's welcome from 8 to 9:30 coaching huddle that we practice scripts, dialogues, objections is every day, Monday to Friday for all 3 market centers. All the coaches, we do that every single day from 8 to 9:30.
How do they find that?
On the calendar on Austin, KW Austin 1, it should be on their office calendar, but if it's not, on kwaustin.com, and you go under calendar, and it's the very first class, coaching huddle. It has the link. You could just click and go in from 8 to 9:30 every day.
Just posted that into the chat.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yes, and again, that's the last of the 6 principles is practice and role play, right? So we'll get to that a little bit more. And talking, kind of wrapping up the professional side. Dress professionally, act professionally is always key, obviously. But what Gary said, if you guys, any newer agents that are on here, and he talks about this when he was in his early 20s, graduated college, got into real estate. He said, agents think they should always know the answers. This could be farther from the truth. That's unprofessional. A true professional knows what they know, knows what they don't know, and knows the difference between the two. So when they know, that they tell, and when they don't know, they get advice. Professionals never fake it or bluff their way ahead. And that's absolutely, people can read right through you. So if you're new to the business and you don't know the answer, just say, you know what? This is what I know. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't, I know how to get the answer, right? That's it. I've got resources and I'll get you the answer. And that's it. People are good with that. Move on. So number 2, professionals. Number 2 is prepared. How prepared are you, right? Do you have a presentation? Are you prepared to go on the appointment immediately? Speed to lead is something we talk about around here very, very much. And it is my biggest pet peeve. I can't tell you how many listings I've lost because I got the lead and I didn't follow up immediately, and literally thought, oh, okay, yeah, that's a past client. I'll give them a call this afternoon when I get done with whatever. And boom, it was too late. They already moved on. And so speed to lead, especially with sellers, is double important. Double, triple, whatever. Do whatever you can. it is the gold. It is the basis of how we're going to build our business. So I cannot tell you how critical that is. But again, when you have the lead, are you prepared to go on the appointment? Are you prepared to talk about the market? Are you prepared to overcome objections? Again, we're talking about role playing, right? Scripting and role playing. Are you prepared to lead gen at a high level? What's a high level, right? It's building your bunker, It's creating a way that you show up every day, that you can make your contacts and have good conversations. You've already got your list printed. You already know who you're calling. You already know what to say. All you have to do is pick up the phone and start making the phone calls, sending the text. I prefer text and email and phone calls. I don't really consider emails lead gen. So, where you're interacting back and forth. And so what does it look like to be prepared? Showing up, with a presentation, with a written presentation. We don't have a lot of competition in this industry for people that are prepared. Most people wing it, and they don't know why they got the listing this time. They don't know why they didn't get the next time. It's because they're winging it. And so that's where when you create a presentation, and obviously there's a million of them out there, and there's a lot of great ones that are already uploaded onto Command or into MyKW. And in order to, and so you have to practice it. You have to learn it. And, we talk a lot around here about what that looks like. And when you have a presentation, it's memorized. The cool thing is what happens is that you get to listen when you're actually interviewing somebody. When you're having a consultation, you get to listen to them. You're less fearful about what to say next. You're less fearful about what are they going to ask you, etc. So it's a situation that puts you in the driver's seat. You get to ask the questions, let them answer, and that's what they want to. They don't want to. Your presentation should not be a show and tell. It should be simply, how can you create a presentation that has a lot of questions in it, right? And because it's all about them and their needs. Period. Pre-qual. So pre-qual at the highest level. Why is pre-qualification important? What is the number one thing? Who can tell me what is the number one thing why we pre-qual? Now we're talking about a seller here, not a buyer. Why is that important?
To make sure we have a motivated seller.
Right. Motivation. Behind speed to lead, motivation is one of the biggest things we talk about everywhere. When I hear a team member on the phone and they are talking to somebody and they get off the phone, they set an appointment, and I just, I look at them and I go, so what's the motivation? Oh, well, they said they want to sell their house. Okay, well, that's great. So why? So why do they want to sell their house? What is their motivation? Without the motivation, you are wasting your time going on an appointment, not without knowing. So, I have them pick the phone right up and call right back. And so, the simple scripts, some of the simple ones that we use around here is, if you did sell your house, where are you moving to, right? That's number one. Where are you moving to? I don't know, right? Or I want to be close to the grandkids in Houston. Okay, so why is that important to you? Well, we've been apart for a long time, and I really feel like it's time that we spend more time with them, whatever. Okay, I get it. You deserve that for sure. Well, my job is to make sure that you get to the grandkids in Houston, right? We talk in bold a lot about pain versus pleasure, and people are either moving away from pain or they're moving towards pleasure, right? So which one is it? And that's where you have to be able to have really good motivation questions. Just type in motivation questions for sales, and there's a crap load. I almost said a bad word. And there's, especially in the listing presentation side, if you just type in motivation questions, you should be practicing those. You should be reading those to somebody. We do that in our team, or we just take a ball, we throw it around the room, and say, where are you moving to? Boom, throw the ball. Why is that important to you? Throw the ball to somebody else, right? Just question after question after question. Make it fun. And so by getting the motivation and going deep in that, that's where you know how you can truly help somebody. What's truly important to them. And they may say, oh, well, we just want to move to a different part of town, right? And the reality is, when you get deeper, you find out it's a divorce, or you find out there's a financial situation. You find out that there's a sick parent, whatever it might be, right? And so once you're able to do that, then you can help in the best way, and knowing the motivation and how you can best serve that person, right? So being prepared, being professional. Diana Kokoska, when she would teach Bold, she would constantly talk about how agents aren't on time, and she was always on time. She was always early. She was always there. She was always prepared. She got the listing. I mean, her last year in business, she took 150 listings of 152. And, one of them, she uses the story that one specifically said that I signed with you because you were on time. Nobody else was on time. Everybody else was late. And so that's being a professional, right? Showing up, being there, being prepared, taking the time to best serve that person. Let's see. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
I have a quick question. Hey, Gene. Kyler Welker, Keller Williams, like Travis here. Will you take listings if they want to overprice it?
Well, we got the normal market, right? And you got today's market. And so, do you have an example, Kyler, by any chance? One that you personally had to deal with?
Yeah, sure. So had a listing appointment. They had bought a condo 7 months ago, and for around 400,000, they wanted to list it for 700,000.
Yeah. No.
And the highest comp, which was a lot bigger and first floor and several other things, was 600,000.
Yeah, I mean that's not reasonable, right?
That's what I thought. But do you have a threshold of reasonableness, or?
Oh no, there's a threshold. Absolutely. And again, Kyler, why were they selling?
Their motivation was to make a bunch of money.
Yeah, so that's not the motivation that's going to win, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah. If they had a job transfer and they're moving to New York and they have to be there by the end of the year, they may go in and say, you know what, for 1 week we'll try your price, but let's look at the market, right? And it goes back to being very well scripted, have a good presentation, explain to them where buyers come from and how they make their choices, how the market, whether it's the appraisal, whatever it might be, that's going to affect the property in the long run, actually selling. All those scripts are going to help you win in that scenario. So absolutely, I'll take an overpriced listing for a short amount of time, but it's going to be reasonable. It's not going to be stupid. It is my reputation too, right? So that's important. There are a couple agents specifically that are really good listing agents, and they do overprice stuff constantly, and constantly it's going off the market. So the perception of in the market is not good. So it does catch up to you, and it's perception with the agents too. They see your listing and see it pop on automatically. They're just like, I'm not gonna look. I know it's overpriced. So, but no, the seller has the right motivation. Yes, it is a opportunity to price it. And today, I mean, this year, what we've seen some places 10 to 15 to 20% appreciation, right? And so, in that, if you're talking about a $500,000 house and they want to be at 550, that's not crazy, right? It's not crazy. 12 months ago, maybe 525 is the most we could do, right? So the market is absolutely growing. It's moving up it can absolutely move up to their pricing. We just took a property off the market this week because the seller would not adjust to the market. And so somebody will list it. The third listing agent will win. I was the second. So they'll get the right price in the right condition. So, there's no quicker way to go out of business is to take overpriced listings overall, because you're spending money, all this money on the front end, you're getting nothing on the back end. Yes, you have an opportunity to get sign calls, market the property, etc. However, you're not going to get sign calls on an overpriced property that high. It just, so that's not reasonable. Any other questions on that?
Hey, Gene,
Go ahead, Via.
this is Tamara. I have a quick question. Like, whenever you do your listing presentations, no matter what, let's say it's a $200,000 as opposed to a $2.5 million, do you adjust your listing presentation according to whether it's a referral or whether it's a brand cold lead or whatever, I mean, hot lead from someone? I mean, how do you, or is it all the same?
It's 90% the same, 90%. The only thing that would change on a luxury listing would be additional things that we would be doing to, you know, whether it's for more video, more pictures, publications, additional websites, additional Facebook spending, that kind of stuff. That would be our biggest, you know, we may pay for some staging, we may pay for, you know, out of our own pocket kind of stuff on certain properties, but 90% of our presentation is going to be the same.
So even if it's a friend says, my agent, excuse me, my agent is Gene and he's amazing and he's a, you know, good friend of mine, would you go through the whole, it's like, if it's a really warm lead, would you go through your listing presentation with them?
So part of the presentation is to send over the pre-presentation so they have it, right? So you need to actually read it or ask them to read it. And one of the first questions you ask is, do you have any questions on that? You know, I'm happy to go over with you, or we can go ahead and start on the paperwork. Which would you like to do? Right? You don't have, yeah, the goal is not to sit there and do the presentation every time. The goal is to find out what would they like, right? What's best for them. And absolutely, you know, if you can get in and get out in 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or an hour and a half, it's just, you know, again, comes back to what's best for them, because they have questions on everything. You know, they may have been burned and they really want to know, how are you going to treat them? How is the process going to be? What are the expectations? So.
Great, thank you.
I think there's somebody else. Nope. Cool. All right. So prepared, professional, prepared. Third is pre-qual at the highest level. Why is it important? Find them motivated. We already talked about going deep on motivation questions. Third is presentation. And I kind of said a bad word here, but presentation that is badass. You have to have a badass presentation. Again, this is important. It makes you professional. You show up with a presentation, you know your stuff, you know how best to explain to people your value proposition and how it's going to benefit them. And you have, and you get objections, and then you tweak the presentation to the objections so they automatically are taken care of in the front end, so you don't get those objections anymore. If you keep getting the same objection over and over again, then you're not bringing up value, or they're not understanding the process in that sense. So we're constantly tweaking our presentations. We're finding, you know, what in this market right now, I mean, it's with COVID and with Zoom and everything else, we've had to completely, you know, tweak our presentation, right? Gary, you know, has been pretty adamant about letting people know that the future with technology, with the amount of information that the buyers are armed with, the sellers are armed with, you know, we are not, we are going to have commission. We are going to have pushback on commissions, period. So you have to be prepared to bring your value. Otherwise, you are going to have people not see the value and not want to pay you what you deserve, because they don't know what all you're going to do for them. They have no clue. So, and how that's going to benefit them, right? How you're going to negotiate this, you're going to negotiate that, how you're going to protect them here, protect them there, you know, how you're going to get them all the way through the process, a very complicated process, a very costly process, a stressful process, the way that's going to be less stressful. It's going to make them more money and they're going to win. And so again, it goes back to, how are you preparing? Are you professional? Are you in it to win it? Are you practicing? Are you every day? I mean, you just pouring, are you building your wealth on how you can best, building your wealth of knowledge on how you can best benefit them, right? How can you make a difference there? So,
Gene?
Yep.
Angela back here. One of your biggest fans. Hey, when you say badass, are you talking about like the technology part of how you strategize your presentation? I mean, I feel like I've lost a couple based on how they presented it, like with the overhead, or they had a $150 tablet that they left them, or how much do you think that's coming into these multi-million-dollar properties, and how much do we need to step up our game on our side?
So when I say value, you have to know what the buyers and sellers are seeing today, right? So what you're competing with now are, we have killer offers. So we have our buyer. We have a multitude. We've got Homeward that we can offer in order to be able to say, hey, we can sell your house and we can go ahead and go buy your next house first. We have options there, right? So the technology, the networking. The reality is, when you meet with a seller, today's market, and your job is to take their home and best showcase it in a way that most, you can get the most eyeballs on it, right? And Keller Williams has already set you up to win there, right? Nobody can touch the syndication that Keller Williams puts out, once you launch your home. So it's up to you to find a really good photographer. It's up to you to make the decision if you're going to pay for a Matterport or video or twilight photos, or a helicopter that flies by when the view, whatever, I'm just making up stuff, but it's up to you to decide what's the best practices to showcase this home. How can I get in front of the most people that are going to be interested? Who's the demographic of the buyer? Have you analyzed that, right? Who's moving into that neighborhood? Have you called the other listing agents, or maybe the last 5 buyer agents that had buyers that moved to the neighborhood? Where did their buyers come from? Why did they pick that neighborhood? Why did they choose that street, right? So again, you have to be the consummate professional. You have to know more than your clients. And it takes work. It takes thought. It takes practice, right? You guys are all on this call, which is awesome, right? Whatever I can bring for an hour, I'll bring it. But this is 1 hour of your 200-hour week, right? So, but you have to be thinking constantly of how you can bring more value. We're looking every day. What's new? What's latest? In role playing with my buyer's agents today, it was all about the reality of this market today. You're going to look back. You may be looking back in the spring and going, I wish I was in that market. It is so much tougher now for the buyers. We're looking at 2021. It may be, which is hard to believe. We were in a multiple offer this week. This week we lost, and they had 40 offers. 40. And it's like, holy smokes. And so so now we're redoing our buyer presentation. It's not about what you want in a home and what you have to have in a home. It's only what you have to have. And it's only half of what you have to have. You don't get to have 5 things. You only get to have 2 or 3 things now. It's the school district and the number of bedrooms, right? We don't pick the number of baths anymore. We don't get to pick if it's stone or brick. This is our choices. And by the way, if we don't do this, you're going to pay 10% more next year, right? It's like, okay, I have to have a 4-bedroom with an office, or a 3-bedroom with an office. Okay. So, and this was an aha I had today. I'm like, how could we turn a 3-bedroom, no office into a 3-bedroom office? Let's just put a tiny house in the backyard, right? Not a tiny house that rolls in on a trailer, but I've seen multiple places around Austin where people are building these she sheds. It's like, hey, put a freaking he shed or she shed in the backyard. That it's a kit. You put it together. It's $6,000, and you add an air conditioner for $1,000, and you've got the office, right? Not every neighborhood's going to allow that, but a lot of them will. They absolutely will. And so again, it's like, okay, for $10,000 or $20,000, let's do this, right? Okay, so you have to have a pool. Well, no, that's not an option now. You're going to have to build a pool. And so anyway, I don't even know where did I go with that? I don't know where I started with that. But anyway, it's just, knowing the market, knowing the changes, bringing the value. That's right, Angela, going back and just saying, how can I best bring the value, right? We had the opportunity this past week to home came on the market, and it had been under contract twice. Just so happened, timing wise, my wife and I went and looked at it. We put it under contract, multiple offers. The first day it came back on the market, so we didn't again, how you win a multiple offer is up to you, but we were able to secure it. And so we unexpectedly put our house on the market this past week. We had no plans of it. However, I have been telling her forever, we've got a lot of equity in this house. It's tapping, it's just certain square footage, which is smaller than most of the homes in the area. And I said, we're hitting a peak. And so, anyway, long story short, we put our house on the market, 26 showings in 2 days, 9 offers, sold over 10% over asking. And I could have priced it higher, but I priced it at a point where I felt like it's way above comps, but it's still not, it still has room for people to get into a bidding war. And that's what happened. And our backup offer is 35,000 higher than our under contract offer. So, so I feel for your buyers, because I mean, I would not want to be, we heard every story and every sob story and everything, it was all there about why they wanted our home. But on the seller side, Angela, we did badass pictures, video, Matterport. We timed it to go on the market on Thursday, show it over the weekend, take offers on Monday, right? So we put everybody's lined up out in the street. They've seen each other going back inside, in and out, in and out. Fear of loss is bigger than fear of gain, right? So somebody's fearful of losing something more than they are fearful of gaining something. It's just a natural, it's proven statistically, absolutely. So as a listing agent, if you can create fear of loss, you're going to win for your seller, right? So if I wasn't my own seller, I would be really, really, really happy with my agent right now. I'd be so ecstatic, because my house was worth $400,000 less a year ago. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? So again, I knew the market. I know where the market's going. Absolutely. Maybe I could have gotten a little bit more this spring, maybe, who knows? But it was the right opportunity. So
So where are you going?
I'm sorry?
Where are you going?
Over by the races. So we've got a Lakeview property over there on Panorama. And so anyway, having a great presentation is important, and it's a consistent presentation. There's going to be certain things that you're going to walk out of a presentation and go, oh man, I forgot, I should have said this, and it's like, if you have a presentation, you don't forget, it's all there. And the cool thing is, if you have a presentation, you send it over ahead of time, you may not even have to go over it. But if you walk in the door with nothing, and they've seen nothing, they may be thinking they're getting nothing, and therefore they need you to explain, they need you to sell them and why they should use you. Right. So, have a really cool presentation and work on it, practice it. It's so expensive to walk into a listing and walk out without a signed listing, right? Because $500,000, that's $15,000 course you just took in the last hour, right? That you didn't.
Can you talk about your pre-listing package? What y'all put in that? I'm getting people asking that question.
Our pre-listing package is our listing presentation, right? It's our listing presentation now is available to be done on Zoom or a PowerPoint, but it's printed, and so it's just sent ahead of time in a digital format or physically dropped off depending on the situation. So it just starts with our team. It starts with our value proposition. It talks about our marketing. It takes them through the process of what we do to protect them and how we're best going to take care of them through the process. So, and again, it's really just learning one and getting good at it, and then working on the objection handlers that come along with it. So the last P is price, right? How good are you on pricing? Again, we're an amazing market. You can almost just throw something against the wall and it's going to sell. And so pricing is a little bit weird right now. Again, depending on the property and its condition, different scenarios bring different pricing strategies. So it's knowing the client's motivation. When do they want it gone? How long are they willing to show it? We know statistically, the sooner you sell a home, the more it sells for. Now, that being said, the market's accelerating in pricing. You know, if a home doesn't sell, yes, it still gets stale, and yes, it may sell for less, but the market may move up to that price, and they get it. That absolutely happens. You know, the desperation finally shows up where they're like, we got no choices. We're going to have to go ahead and buy this house and remodel the kitchen, right? You know, people still would rather have, you're seeing it just like I am. I just remodeled my kitchen. We remodeled our master bath last year. We just remodeled the 2 other baths. The house had just gotten to the best it's ever looked. I mean, literally, we just finished the other 2 baths 2 weeks ago, right? And it was, we still could have probably put down some new hardwoods. We have concrete floors. So we could have gotten it a little bit better looking. But emotionally, it was ready, right? It was like, oh, I don't need to do anything. It's ready. It's ready to go. So, you know, when you see the home that has all the colors and has the right kitchen and has the right master bath remodel, it goes for crazy money, crazy, compared to the neighbor's house that's still original, or it's clean, in good condition. For instance, the house we're buying, I think, you know, they could have done a little bit of work. And when I say a little bit, I'm talking about $10,000 worth of work, and they probably could have gotten an extra 100 or 200 out of it. But presentation wise, it was 20 years old. And it just, you know, you got maroon walls and brass. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, so again, that's where you guys as listing agents, you bring the value, right? You know, hey, can we spend $5,000 so I can make an extra 50? Because that's the way it works right now, right? Back up 5 years ago, when we had to spend $5,000 to just sell the property, it was a must. Even 2 years ago, even a year and a half ago, it's like, we've got to do this. You know, this is not okay. But in this market, people look over ugly carpet and bad wallpaper, or you know, a missing wall cover, you know, whatever. So, but pricing the market, knowing how to do an amazing CMA, kicking through that is pretty important. Something I wrote down that we have when we have people join the team is we have them do CMAs of other team members and other agents. So go ask 5 other agents, hey, what's your address? Can I do a CMA in your house, right? Even better is if you would actually go do a listing presentation for them. That would be even better. But if you don't know how to do a good CMA, if you want to learn a market or learn an area, you want to start working on downtown condos, you want to start working in Sun City, you want to go out to the lake, you want to whatever, right? Circle C, wherever you live, you want to, or whatever you want to learn, start doing CMAs in those areas. And by practicing it, by doing it, you're going to get better and better and better. Otherwise, you just finally get a lead and then you run down the hall and say, hey, can you help me with this real quick? And you kind of learn it, but you don't really get good at it. And by being prepared, knowing the data, knowing that, and so I have a farm, Steiner Ranch. I've been farming Steiner Ranch since 14 years now, 2006, is, you know, I know that typically there's 60 homes on the market in Steiner Ranch. Currently there's 6, right? That's weird, right? That just so blows my mind, right? Average sale price is now $650,000. $650,000. It was like 500 last year, 525. You know, so again, I know the data. I know how many houses are for sale. I know how many under contract. I know what they used to be, what the inventory used to look like. So we can create the urgency for both the seller and the buyer. And so again, it's knowing the market and knowing your numbers in that sense, being the professional. Where do you find sellers? Right? You know, interesting part that you guys may know this, you know, does anyone have concerns that most sellers already have a relationship with an agent, right? We have a lot of realtors in the business right now. We've never had this many in Austin. You know, it's obviously Austin's growing, but our board is growing too. So there's more competition for not fewer sales, but just it's not quite equivalent. So 85% of people said they would use their realtor again. However, less than 10% can remember their name after 2 years, right? Why is that? Because they don't have a system. They're not a professional. They don't have a follow-up system set up. Their database is not set up to follow up with that person. That you have an amazing transaction. You hug, you kiss, you give a gift, you cry, you go by a week later, whatever it might be, and that's it. Maybe a birthday call, maybe a birthday card, maybe an anniversary letter. But how well are you staying in contact? How well are you bringing value throughout the transaction from there, right? So that means 90% of the population, 90% of this city is 90% of them forgot the realtor's name if they've owned the house more than 2 years. So the database that's available to you is massive, but you have to get purposeful with it and how you capture their information, touch them, and give them value. Command obviously is taking all of that and putting it into a big bow and making it pretty for you. However, the buyer and seller's expectations are getting more and more. And the way you're going to win in the future with technology is how are you best going to be a fiduciary for your clients? Where do you bring, and the fiduciary is bringing knowledge, the intangible, right? That they can't get, that only your experience in the business is going to be able to help them in that sense. Let's see. So finding sellers, what is your message? What's your call to action? How are you seller focused? What's the message of the moment with the sellers? Hey, can I share my screen? Can I do that?
You should be able to, yes, sir.
Let me.
If you can't, let me know.
I'll show you please, this is pretty basic, but I'll just show you my video I did last month to our team. Don't see. Well, I was going to show you one thing. I was going to show you with Zillow can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
So right now there's 285 for sale by owners in the Austin area. So that's one place you can find somebody to call. And of course, the next question is, what would you say to them? Let's see. I don't really type this slow. My computer's elevated for my camera. So let me know if this works. Is this working? Hey, Gene Arant, Keller Williams Realty. Just want to reach out to you and just give you a quick update in the market. We are now in November. The election is over, and we're just kind of watching the market. Right now, it's just continuing as it was. Inventory is extremely low, not just in Austin, but across the country. And we are just going to watch from here on through the end of the year to the beginning of the year, kind of see where consumer confidence goes and just to see if there's any concerns with where the new presidency brings us. So I think that's the biggest question we have right now. The good news on the virus and the possible vaccine is obviously helping morale right now. So we'll see where that takes us. But we're watching it right now. But right now, it's still an extreme seller's market. Prices are through the roof. I've seen amazing appreciation all over Austin. And we are just working really diligently to find houses for our buyers. If you got any questions or if you want to take advantage of the market and you want to talk strategy, 512-261-1000 or catch me at austintexasrealestate.com. Thanks. Cool. All right. And then Craigslist, over 300,000 right now. I did 25 miles from 7704, condos, houses, townhomes. There's 494 properties listed in here, right? And I only bring that up just because, those are immediate areas. For us, our database is number one. Our past clients, our sphere, our past client referral, agent referral. We do some HomeLight stuff. If anybody's familiar with HomeLight, that's a service that you pay them 25% referral if you ever close the lead. and of course our farm is kicks us back a lot of business. And that's kind of it. So,
Hey, Gene, are y'all utilizing Make Me Move like Zillow does? Are y'all offering sellers that type of service as well, coming in and presenting an offer to a house or somebody that's not really looking to sell, but hey, somebody wants to buy your house. Would you consider this price? Have y'all utilized that?
we have marketed to that, and again, a little bit in that video, but the video we just shot for December, we're actually talking, Susan, my wife and I are actually talking side by side about selling our home and the opportunity in the market. And, if you want to find out the equity that you have in your home right now and what you could do with it, reach out. Right. So, very little of the videos that we do, and I do 60 seconds with Gene every month. And so that goes out to the whole database. And so it's all seller focused. Everything is seller focused. Because our sellers become our buyers, right? It's just dominoes line up. And so we do have lots of conversations about who, right now, if you sold your home, if you ask somebody, in a script, would you consider selling your house? Well, I guess, no. Well, let me ask you this. If you did sell your house, where would you move to? Right? So boom, first we're going to create that, get a little bit of key, right? Oh, I don't know. Or I don't know. I've always wanted a place on the lake, or I always wanted, we've always wanted to live in Blanco, whatever, we've always wanted 5 acres, or we always want to live downtown to try that living, and live with 1 car and walk everywhere, whatever it might be. Okay. So what's a make me move price? If I brought you a buyer today, what's a make me move price? And I'd have to look to see how many houses we're selling right now off market, but there's a lot. And that's probably everywhere that, people, their properties are just, we're getting a make me move price, and then we're able to shoot that out to our buyers, or maybe even to you, and saying, hey, we've got this opportunity. If you know somebody, we've got to make me move price. My coach, we have several MAPS coaches in our team that we use, Susan and I and the team. One of them said, I have a make me move price. And I said, okay. And so I called him up and said, I think I can get you that. And I said, well, I need a 4 to 6 month lease back. I said, well, I think I can get you that too. And so I'm showing the house on the 29th. This is a make me move, right? And it's an agent that's not Keller Williams. That I just knew, matched up to it. So those are conversations absolutely in today's market. Is, any seller that says, no, I don't want to move right now, just say, is there a price that you would consider moving? Is there a make me move price? And then we put them in our database and we put MMM, make me move, right? So I can just type in MMM, boom, there's all my make me moves. So, which also helps with our buyers, because our buyers know that we have a list of sellers that will consider selling. And so that brings them value.
Hey, Jean, it's Kim.
Yeah.
Oh, can you?
Yep.
Oh, I have one of those right now, a pocket listing that started today. So I've just been, what's the best way to get that out there? You can't advertise. There's not going to be a sign. But right now I'm just connecting with agents that I know and letting them know about it that have sold that kind of a property before.
Yeah.
What can we do, and what's the best way to get it out there? Because it's a cool property. So
my broker is sitting here. I see her staring at me. So she probably has a different answer. So the gray answer is that currently the board is not finding anybody. As far as I know, Truck is not finding anybody for marketing properties that are not in the MLS. So again, that's a discussion you may want to have with your broker. That's a discussion you may want with your seller. And so ALN is still, up and running, very strong. And so if it's a luxury product, there's a lot of properties going through that right now. And I believe, just because we had to renew I don't know, a month or two ago, and we're like, well, is this going to end in December? January 1st, and we're having to pay whatever it was, $200 or $300. I forgot what the renewal is every year. And they said, no, we're just going to keep going until we see what happens. So anyway, I know you can market the property through your own office, through your own broker. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So I think everybody, well, no, not everybody on this call is not all under ME. Are we allowed to say to the other Keller Williams offices about properties off market legally?
Gene, we have been doing that. If you take the strict order of the clear cooperation policy, the answer is no. But in our KW1 meetings, we have been sharing. It's, again, the reason that's being done is because Austin is not really taking a stance in support of it.
I mean, it goes back to your seller, right? What's right for your seller? If your seller says, you know what, I would like you to market my property at this price, a make me move price, whatever it might be. I don't want it in MLS. I don't want to sign. I don't want any, in that sense. And these are the conditions I would sell it in. That is your client, right? So it is very weird to me that the board or Trek or whoever can say you can only market a property a certain way. I get the other side of it. I totally understand that, Kim, if you just go and market it and you go find your own buyer and the seller didn't really get the opportunity to get the most out of the property, I get that part of it. You kind of, and that happens, right? And that's fear, I'm sure, with Trek or Abor, that you're not truly exposing the property, that you could have got more money. Now, the seller may not want more money. They just want this. This is what I want. If you can just subtly bring people into my home, if one of them wants it at this price, at these terms, I'm out of here, right?
Yeah. Gene, that was the whole theory behind this law from NAR. It has nothing to do with Trek. It has all to do with the local boards. And the whole theory behind it was, and there's a ton of lawsuits out there, that realtors were double ending the deals and not getting the most amount of money for the seller. And there's been lawsuits came about, and that was one of the things that NAR changed with the clear cooperation policy, is to set that up where you can't market the property anymore, because more eyeballs means more money in theory.
Yeah. Let's see, what else we got?
Thank you.
I'd love to hear about how you determine your marketing spend and how you measure its success.
So we don't really spend too much crazy marketing, honestly. We obviously spend money on a stager on every single property. It doesn't matter price point. And that's a stager given a consultation and a report. Occasionally we'll pay for staging in the sense of putting furniture in a home and those kinds of things. We most of the time can get a seller to pay for that if it's needed. We do let the stager be the bad guy in the listing presentation. I learned from Andy Allen years ago, if anybody knows Andy here in Austin, he would talk about going on a listing presentation and there'd be a hole in the carpet and he'd just step right over and act like he didn't see it. And he would get the listing signed and then they would work on the property. Because if you give a seller, and I lost a listing before where I went in and I said, oh yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And I didn't get it. And I went back and said, hey, can you give me some feedback? Well, yeah, you were going to, this agent, I had nothing to do with you. I had a laundry list of stuff to do. Right. And so go in, get this listing signed, and then let the stager be the bad guy in the sense of, sure, you may address stuff if they ask specifically, but you stay away from, condition, a whole lot of condition on the front end until you understand the seller's temperature and what their capacity is to be able to do those things or those repairs, because they may not have the money. Like I had a client call today, a listing agent called me and said, hey, we've got a client who wanted to just work to it. They can't afford it. Can we reimburse this at closing? And I'm like, sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes I'm not. I know the sellers, a little flaky. So I said, I need equity. I need something of equity. And I've had a barbecue pit on a trailer up front. I've had musical instruments worth tens of thousands of dollars dropped off and put in, in the back office. I've gotten a title to a car before, just as, in order to be able to loan people money to fix their houses up, right? So, but it was the right thing to do. It needed to happen. It was going to get them more money, or it was going to, whatever. And so, but that's not normal. That's not normal. Just so you know, that's not normal. Sam, what was your question? Did I finish it?
Pretty much. I think you finished definitely with respect to listings. I appreciate it. But also, if you're willing to kind of go off listings, just generally, you mentioned your farming, your general marketing spend, not necessarily listing specific.
Yeah. So generally, most of our marketing is listing, and that's going to be pictures, video, Matterport. So we do all those on every single property, unless it's under 300,000. We may not do a Matterport or video. We may just do pictures in the stager. And then our next major spend from there is some Facebook ads on the properties, which again, we're talking about, $50, $100, $200, whatever it might be, depending on how long it lasts. And very rarely do we have any kind of a party, or obviously in COVID, but even pre-COVID, occasionally we might do some kind of open house, but we, in the sense of for agents, I tracked a long time ago where my closings come from, and they don't come from broker opens or, an evening open house wine and cheese thing. It came from the top agents that sell the most houses, and right. So they're out moving around. They're not going to take the time. The agents that were coming to my little broker opens for wine and cheese on a lakeview or waterfront property, having in business going on. So like, hey, let's go check out this house. Right. So that's not the people you want walking through. And so I'm able to take that, flip it over to the seller and say, this is why we don't want to do this. Let's concentrate on the people that are selling the houses. Right. So, yeah, today digitally, you don't really have to spend a terrible amount of money unless you want to. In today's market, especially.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're coming to time. Anybody got anything else on sellers, listings? Anybody got a hard one they can't nail down? Any questions? Any objection that's just kicking your butt? No. Cool. All right. Go get good at what you do. Be a badass. Learn your trade. Understand the market. Practice, role play, just do everything you can to be the best fiduciary for that client, that you care, you come from contribution, you're going to make a difference for them. You're only showing up, you're showing up to help them. You get paid on the back end is the bonus. You're there to make a difference for them and their family. Period. Cool.
Thank you very much, Gene.
Thank you. So awesome.
Have a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks,
Merry
Gene.
Christmas.
Email me if you got any questions.
Everyone. And we do have this recorded, so we'll be setting it up on our internal Facebook page. If you'd like a copy of it, let us know. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you.
Gene.
Ciao.
Gene.